What's going on, my fellow A-plusers? It's your host, as always, Adam Perez, certainly coming through with a brand new video for you guys today, as I'm going to get into my Star Wars bag today. It's been quite some time since I had the opportunity to really dive into one of my favorite franchises in regards to Star Wars, as we've decided to do something a little bit different around here at A+ Hero Report, something that we never really did too much before, and that is, in fact, review Star Wars novels. I'm a big supporter of getting into Star Wars even more outside of the movies themselves, and I've always thought that the novels was always a great place to go ahead and continue to build that mythology and world building for Star Wars. So if you want to get into the nitty-gritty, the details, be a little bit of a historian, if you will, like myself, this is a perfect opportunity to certainly go ahead and dive into some novels, especially starting off with the High Republic era, since that does in fact take place 200 years before this the prequel trilogy, if you will, when it comes to the Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and Revenge of the Sith. So so far on our channel, we have in fact reviewed the very first two novels. This one, Star Wars The High Republic Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, is in fact the third entry into this time period, and just as of last week, they did go ahead and drop The Rising Storm by Cavan Scott, which is the fourth installment. So you guys aren't too far behind. If you want to go ahead and check out some of these books, I highly recommend you do so, and would certainly love to go ahead and talk with you guys and let you know, get the opportunity to hear what you guys thought about each of these particular novels that we're going to be getting into. But today, Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, we're going to go ahead and talk about here just a little bit. Claudia Gray, for me, is one of my favorite Star Wars authors that we have, ever since she kind of threw me for a loop and knocked me off my feet with Lost Stars, which I really highly recommend to you guys. She's also come back with a couple of Princess Leia led books in I think it's actually just called Leia, which focuses her as a teenager, and then we also got Bloodlines, which I think takes a few years before The Force Awakens in the sequel trilogy. So Claudia Gray certainly is no stranger to Star Wars, and I think probably a very popular author amongst Star Wars fans, to certainly say the least. So the fact that she winds up having a brand new book. Oh, she also did Master and Apprentice, which was an Obi-Wan Kenobi and a Qui-Gon Jinn story, which I thought was great for the prequel time period also. So just throwing out some Claudia Gray novels for you guys to certainly go ahead and check out. But when it comes to Into the Dark, guys, compared to the other ones that I've read so far, out of the other two novels that I've read, this is probably in between. I wouldn't say this book was terrific, but definitely solid and quite enjoyable, to say the least. I think for me, the biggest issue that I had with this book was probably its pacing. And, you know, the pacing of this book probably wouldn't have been so bad if I didn't read this book literally after The Light of the Jedi, which immediately just comes out punching you in the face. And it's just a roller coaster ride the entire way through when you read The Light of the Jedi. So I love the pacing of that book, but this is more traditional storytelling in the sense that you get the opportunity to kind of build up some of your characters, get introduced to quite a few of them very early on, join them as they're going on their journey, and then as we get to maybe the halfway point, things really start kind of picking up, if you will, and that's where we start seeing Claudia Gray really highlighting some great sort of horror and scary, kind of tones and vibes and atmosphere to this particular book. Just really dark and dreary moments, if you will. The one thing that I continue to love about the High Republic is that, you know, they don't mind getting their hands dirty. People, in fact, will die in this time period. People will come back from the dead, sort of thing. And I really love that when it comes to Into the Dark. She really plays with that as well. The idea of really heightening the risks and letting us know that really nobody is certainly safe. So I really enjoyed sort of that horror element that she wind up including in here, and just that feeling of dread and dreariness at certain moments throughout here, I thought was just really well handled by Claudia Gray. So for me, the pacing a little bit slow at first, but some great character development, great character work, great introduction to some characters, and then by the halfway point here, we really start picking up into the mystery and really seeing how everything's going to kind of unfold. So again, solid, enjoyable book, to certainly say the least. I would certainly recommend it to anybody out there. A couple of the characters that I definitely want to go ahead and talk about. We get introduced to a ton of brand brand new Jedi in here. We've got Reith Silas, who seems to be more of the archive guy, the bookworm, the one who loves history, right? Getting the opportunity to learn. The fact that we have a character like Reith Silas, I think, is really going to add to just the world building for this particular time period. Even though we are meddling 200 years prior to the prequel series, there is certainly a longer time period before the High Republic that we've yet to even get the opportunity to tap into. But it's somebody like Reith Silas who has that sort of knowledge. And anytime that we get a character that loves to loves their history or loves learning about history, I become quite fond of them. I become really attached to them. And I think the fact that Reith Silas has sort of that bookworm vibe to him, but also at the same time, he's really great at some of the things that he does outside of just the archive stuff, right? Like in regards to some of his Jedi training, he's definitely up there, and you can certainly see it come into play in this episode or in this book. So Reith Silas, I think, is a really great balance of a character in here for him. So I'm definitely going to be looking to see exactly what his endeavors are going forward as the High Republic certainly continues. But really enjoyed Reith Silas's introduction in here. The couple of other Jedis that really continue to stand out to me, we got Master Comac along with Orla Jareni, who, mind you, another thing that I really loved about with Claudia Gray in here is that we do get sort of flashback sequences, if you will. Some of this book does take place sort of 25 years later, as we get the opportunity to follow Orla along with Comac, as they were in fact at one point in time Padawans or Jedi Knights. We get to see one of their missions that they were on 25 years earlier, and really how some of the things that occurred during that moment for them in the past is kind of coming back to kind of haunt them a little bit, or at least put some doubt in dread sort of in their mind, if you will. So they definitely have a lot at stake in this particular book, to say the least. And one of the things that I loved about Orla in here is that we come to find another sect of the Jedi, and that is the Wayfinder Jedi, right? The Jedi that don't necessarily agree with everything that sort of the council says, but takes that opportunity to kind of go off on their own and really kind of learn their own deep connection to the Force, their own instincts and things like that. And so I really love the fact that while Orla is part of the Jedi, certainly don't get her wrong, she is certainly a Wayfinder in the sense that she winds up going and embarking on a lot of her own missions to kind of make that connection with the Force her own and continue to learn about it. And one of the things that I really loved about this book is that it really continues to solidify the idea that not every Jedi is fully committed to the decisions that the council or their masters certainly make, right? There are some people in here that question some of the decisions that the council certainly makes, wondering if that's the proper sort of ideology or mindset to certainly have, right? So to see characters like a Reith or Master Comac start kind of doubting themselves or doubting the council and, not necessarily heeding the counselor's words, it definitely makes those connections to me from previous characters like an Ahsoka, right? That kind of walked away from the Jedi, if you will, to kind of follow her own path or follow the path that she feels the Force has for her, right? I definitely make those connections between Orla along with Ahsoka. So it's really great. Again, despite the years and the vastness of time that takes place, the fact that we do have characters that similarly relate, or you can at least show that Ahsoka, while certainly a rare breed, is not the only person that's kind of left the council or kind of left the Jedi and kind of gone off to kind of do her own things, if you will. So I did find that connection pretty interesting. But I feel like when you watch the prequel trilogy, you get the opportunity to see the Jedi with all this hubris, right? All this confidence, maybe starting to doubt their linkage, if you will, to the Force, because we do see the dark side starting to kind of creep in, if you will. Sort of that doubt, if you will, from the prequel trilogy very much so in the High Republic. Now, granted, clearly the Jedi have their own missions, but what I'm trying to say is there are clearly select few Jedi in here that maybe don't necessarily always agree or come to question the Council and their way of how they're certainly utilizing the Force. So I thought Master Comac was fantastic for that, and because we got Master Comac that feels that way, along with Reith, who's had his doubts but still fully on board with following what the Jedi Code certainly says. I am interested to see what that relationship and that partnership is going to be like between Reith and Comac, certainly going a little bit further. We do get ourselves an introduction in here to a brand new villain, or a brand new alien species by the name of the Thedren Gear, who seem to have a very deep connection to the dark side of the Force. And one of the things that I loved about the Thedren Gear, very alien, like very plant-based alien, if you will. They look menacing as well. When I read my books, I not only read the book, but I also have the audio version kind of playing in my ear as I'm sort of reading along. I will say this, I almost wish I preferred to read Into the Dark by itself, because when I did listen to the audio version, wasn't quite sure if I was really thrilled about the narrator and his voice choice for the Thedren Gear. It definitely kind of threw me off to maybe not take them as seriously as I probably should have, the way that maybe Claudia Gray wanted them to come across. I have seen them pop up in a couple of the High Republic comic books also, which I think is a great addition to what I already know about the Thedren Gear. But talk about deadly, right? Like, while this time period isn't really diving too much into the idea of Jedi versus Sith, the High Republic era is definitely introducing us to new villainy in regards to the Nihil, along with the Thedren Gear. But the fact that the Thedren Gear are sort of captivated by this dark side energy that just kind of comes off of them, if you will, you really get to see just how much of a danger they definitely are, not only to the galaxy, but to the Jedi as well. And this is our first opportunity getting us to see that the Jedi have kind of reawaken them, if you will. And what I loved about the Thedren Gear, though, just from this book and the little brief amounts of history that we did learn, coming to find out that it's the Sith that kind of put them away, that the Sith at some point in time feared the Thedren Gear, it does make me wonder if the idea of the Sith not being around very much in this time period, if it is because of the fact of the threat of the Thedren Gear, if they're just so overpowering that even the Sith themselves have to find themselves sort of in hiding until maybe the Jedi kind of do away with them, and then maybe that's when they start kind of creeping back up before the prequel trilogy, if you will. So I'm going to be really interested to see exactly how powerful the Thedren Gear are, and if we eventually get ourselves a partnership between the Nihil and the Thedren Gear with some sort of commonality in trying to take out the Jedi and have the galaxy for themselves. I'm not quite sure, but I really enjoyed what they wind up introducing us to when it comes to the Thedren Gear as brand new villains in here. Let me see if there are any other notes that I put down. The Amaxine warriors continue to have a significant role in this time period. Clearly the Amaxine warriors have a connection to ancient times, millennia ago, when the Republic was just sort of being drawn and coming together and coming into power. They've been around for a while. Clearly the Amaxines did not get along with the Republic, though, as they wind up leaving the galaxy and search for maybe war elsewhere, someplace else. And so the fact that they pop up in this book, and then you see them pop up later, hundreds of years later, in a book that also Claudia Gray wind up doing in Star Wars Bloodline, and really seeing how the Amaxine warriors of that race kind of help form or give that extra oomph to the First Order to kind of help them build up their army, sort of thing. You really get to see just how important the Amaxines in general have been to just this galaxy over the generation. So I thought that was pretty interesting to see them included in here, and especially their Amaxine station, which we come to find out at some point in time they too tried to go ahead and take out the Thedren Gear, to be unsuccessful also. So I think you're kind of clearly getting the idea of how powerful they certainly are, to say the least. But yeah, the Nihil certainly play a significant role. And if there's any other set of characters that I was actually a really big fan of and was not expecting is probably our flight crew in here in Affy, Leox, and Geode. Now, Leox Jossi is in fact sort of a pilot for one of the ships in this book called The Vessel. When you think of Leox Jossi, just think of Matthew McConaughey, Southern draw and everything in space. Matthew McConaughey in space, that's Leox Jossi. I thought Affy was a great introduction in here, but the character that clearly stood out to me was Geode, simply because of the fact that Geode is literally a rock, just a slab of stone. And I had a lot of fun with Claudia Gray's writing in here and trying to make some really humorous moments for Geode, right? Again, this is a rock and we've got people talking to him. The pilot's clearly understanding what Geode is saying to them. I don't know how, some of the expressions he's making, I have no idea. But again, it's the idea that nobody's ever really around to kind of see Geode move. Geode just kind of is in places at certain particular points in time, right? Like you just happen to run across Geode and he's there. So I don't think anybody in the book has actually seen him move, or like the fact that he's like a co-pilot for the ship. I don't know how that's possible, but again, it just definitely adds to the humor. And of course, the idea of Geode getting a little heroic moment in here, I thought was fantastic to say the least also. But yeah, Geode and Leox and Affy have definitely grown on me, and I certainly hope that they wind up popping up here again and for another adventure at some particular point in time. But overall, guys, solid, enjoyable book. I think they've got some great stuff in here for you guys to certainly learn about. Again, death is happening, growth is happening for a lot of these Jedis. You know, the idea of exploring this frontier for the first time, very much frightening, new adversaries, but very also at the same time new allies also. And again, I think Claudia Gray did a great job of establishing those new characters and also really giving us, like, for me, I do love when Star Wars doesn't mind getting dark and kind of falling into that sort of dreariness, if you will. And I just thought that her being able to turn that on and off throughout this book worked wonders, to be honest with you guys. But listen, if you've had the opportunity to check out Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, what did you guys think? Would you certainly recommend it to anybody? And if you have any questions about it, if you haven't had the opportunity to check it out, feel free to go ahead and certainly ask me and give me your thoughts in the live chat or the comment section box below after this video airs. But other than that, guys, I am going to go ahead and continue to do reviews here for our Star Wars novels. So if you guys certainly want to go ahead and join me, feel free to go ahead and pick them up. If you have any questions as to, you know, if you're new to Star Wars novels, where should you certainly start off with? I certainly don't mind recommending a few titles to you guys. But if anything, I will be jumping into the next Star Wars High Republic book, The Rising Storm by Kevin Scott. Again, I'm already into like chapter 3 already. So once I'm done with that, I definitely will be giving you guys another review. But until then, guys, do me a big favor. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And as always, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.